Chapter 1. The first day of college was overwhelming. As I entered the vast lecture hall, students were everywhere, buzzing with excitement. I found an empty seat near the front, trying to settle my nerves as I took in the sea of unfamiliar faces around me. This was what I had worked so hard for, but the mix of anticipation and loneliness was sharper than I had expected. What if I didn't fit in? Just as I was trying to distract myself by pretending to read the course outline, a girl with curly brown hair slipped into the seat next to mine. She looked at me and smiled.
Hi, I'm Emma. Nervous?
Her openness was refreshing, and I couldn't help but return her smile. You caught me. I'm Alex. We exchanged a few quick words before the professor began, but the ice had been broken. Over the next hour, we shared glances and smiled at each other whenever the professor made a joke or said something intriguing. When the lecture ended, we lingered, walking together toward the student cafe. Emma's sense of humor and warmth were irresistible, and I found myself opening up, laughing, and enjoying our conversation more than I expected. "Let's grab coffee sometime," she suggested as we reached her building. I nodded, feeling a spark of excitement. "I'd like that." Chapter 2. In the weeks that followed, Emma and I fell into a comfortable routine. We met after class almost every day, talking about everything from our studies to our favorite movies. Emma had an artist's eye for detail, always noticing things that escaped me, like the way the light hit the trees or how colors blended in a sunset. I found her passion inspiring and contagious. One Friday, Emma invited me to an art exhibit downtown. I was hesitant, not knowing much about art, but her enthusiasm was infectious. As we walked through the gallery, she explained the paintings, pointing out colors and shapes, helping me see beyond the surface. Her love for art was evident, and I felt privileged to witness it. At the end of the evening, as we sat in a small cafe with warm mugs in hand, the rich aroma of coffee enveloping us, Emma told me about her dreams of becoming a traveling artist, painting landscapes from around the world.
It feels like something I have to do,
she said, looking out the window with a thoughtful expression. I admired her courage, especially as she confided in me about the uncertainty she felt, wondering if she was making the right choices. "Emma, you're amazing," I told her, trying to dispel her doubts. "You have to follow what makes you happy." Her cheeks turned pink, and she laughed softly, looking down at her coffee. I realized then just how much I cared about her dreams and happiness, wishing I had the courage to share my own aspirations. Chapter 3. As our friendship deepened, so did the quiet moments we shared. Sometimes we'd study together in the library, surrounded by the rustling of pages and the soft click of laptops. Other times we'd just sit on the campus lawn, talking about our favorite books and swapping playlists. Emma introduced me to her love for poetry, reading verses aloud and explaining why certain lines touched her. "Why does this one resonate with you?" I asked one afternoon, intrigued.
It's the way it captures fleeting moments,
she replied, her eyes sparkling with passion.
like this line about the sun setting. It reminds me that beauty can be found in the ordinary.
"What does that make you think of?" I pressed, wanting to dive deeper into her thoughts. I shared my passion for music, telling her how much I wanted to start a band and create songs that mattered. "What kind of music do you want to make?" she asked, leaning in with curiosity. "Something heartfelt, something that speaks to people," I replied, feeling the weight of my dreams pressing down on me. One evening, We ended up on the rooftop of my apartment building, watching the stars. The city lights sparkled below, and a comfortable silence stretched between us. We sat close, shoulders brushing, and I felt the quiet ache of wishing I could hold her hand. But I didn't want to rush anything. Our connection felt fragile, like something that needed time to grow on its own.
Alex,
She whispered, breaking the silence.
I'm glad we met.
Me too, I replied, looking at her, my heart heavy with words left unsaid. I wanted to tell her how I felt, but fear gripped me. What if she didn't feel the same? What if I ruined our friendship? Chapter 4. Months passed, and Emma and I became inseparable. We had fallen into a rhythm of friendship so natural that I often forgot there had been a time before her. On rainy days, we'd retreat to our favorite bookstore, getting lost in different aisles, sharing finds and laughing over quirky titles. She introduced me to authors I'd never heard of, and I showed her some of my favorite records. But with each passing day, my feelings for her grew stronger, and the weight of unspoken words pressed heavily on my chest. I would catch myself stealing glances at her when she laughed, wondering if I would ever gather the courage to tell her. What if it changed everything? One rainy afternoon, I asked her to come to one of my band's small shows. I was nervous, but her presence gave me a confidence I hadn't felt before. She was in the front row, cheering me on with a big smile, and seeing her there filled me with joy. After the show, she hugged me tightly, telling me how amazing it was. I tried to play it cool, but her words meant everything. Thanks, Emma. I really appreciate you being there, I said, my heart racing. As we stepped out into the night, the rain had let up, and I could feel the electric tension in the air. I wanted to tell her that I cared about her, that I wanted to be more than friends, but something held me back. Our friendship was too precious to risk. Chapter 5. One evening, as we walked around the city after a movie night, Emma stopped in front of a lit fountain. She pulled out her phone.
Let's take a picture here,
She said, grinning. We leaned close, our faces beaming with happiness as we captured the moment. Looking at the photo later, something clicked. I couldn't deny it anymore. I was in love with her. But I kept my feelings to myself, uncertain if she felt the same way. During our long conversations that night, I noticed the way she looked at me, a glimmer of something unspoken in her eyes. Did she feel it too? It wasn't until the following week, during another one of our long conversations on the rooftop, that Emma finally spoke up.
Alex.
She began, her voice hesitant.
I think I have feelings for you.
I froze, caught between disbelief and relief. Emma, I feel the same, I confessed, my voice barely a whisper. Her eyes widened with surprise and happiness.
Really?
Really? I said, grinning. We both laughed, a mixture of joy and relief filling the air as we held each other close, knowing that this friendship had grown into something beautiful. Chapter 6. After months of being inseparable as friends, our first date was more than just an outing, it was a culmination of everything we had shared. We planned a Saturday date, and as I saw her in her light blue dress, looking both familiar and radiant, my heart pounded with anticipation. We went to the same cafe where we'd spent so many hours as friends. The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped us, mingling with the sound of clinking cups and the soft hum of conversations around us. This time, it felt different. The air was charged with the newness of something that had been brewing beneath the surface for so long. Over coffee and pastries, we shared more dreams, this time holding nothing back. I told her about my plans for the future, and she talked about her art as if it was the only thing that mattered in the world. Our laughter mingled with the cafe sounds, and I felt a sense of peace that was new yet familiar. We ended up at the fountain where we had taken our first picture together. This time, as I looked into her eyes, I reached for her hand. She smiled, a silent understanding passing between us. When I leaned in to kiss her, it was gentle, filled with all the months of friendship and longing. As we pulled away, she whispered,
"I'm so glad I waited."
Our first date felt like a continuation of our journey, a new chapter in a story that had already been written in our hearts. Holding her hand, I knew that whatever happened, we had found something real, something worth holding on to.